Wolverhampton has some great sporting history, particularly around the 50s. Wearwell are one of those names that really were up there. Cycling teams that have run from the 1890s onwards. Sadly, that name disappeared back in the 70s. However, it has been revived. To tell us more, I have from Wearwell, Alex Joynson.
Hello there, how are you?
I'm good, and you must be enjoying the resurrection of a big brand for the city.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a real privilege actually to be back here where Wearwell was sort of first founded. So yeah, there's a lot of history connected with the brand here.
And in particular, being stood here at Molineux, because we have pictures going back to cycle racing being run around the edge of the pitch in the Molineux grounds back in the day.
Exactly, yeah. I suppose it's all the rage to have multi-sport venues these days, but yeah, back in the 1890s, it's probably fair to say Molineux was one of the first multi-sport venues. So yeah, before there were big football stands and Molineux as we know it today, they had a cinder track around the outside, and I believe they had athletics there, but also cycling. And so Wolverhampton was as well known for its cycling back in the 1890s as it was for its football. So
as well as standing on the south bank to watch the footy, they would have been standing exactly just over there from us now. To actually watch the cycle racing taking place. And they were the first team to put a British unit into the Tour de France as well, and that was again another great part of the history of a great organisation.
Back in the 1950s, there was a movement to start a cycle racing scene, much like you see on the continent with the Tour de France or the Giro d'Italia. And a number of the bigger cycling names at the time that were putting racing teams into the Tour of Britain decided that they wanted a piece of the action. So they basically sort of surveyed all of the teams that were competing at the time and cherry-picked the best cyclists. Wearwell were a big cycle racing team at the time, and they picked a few of the racers from Wearwell to go and represent Great Britain in the 1955 Tour de France. So that was the first British team, and obviously in more recent years we've had a lot more success in that particular event. So yeah, it's strange to think that there's a Wearwell connection to the cycling success that Britain enjoys today.
And this is a family connection for you, because as you say, the company started back in the 1890s, but come 1923, I think, was it, that your great-great-grandfather got involved?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a very interesting sort of backstory behind how it came to pass that my family got involved with Wearwell. As you say, Wearwell was founded in 1889 and enjoyed some success up to that point under the stewardship of the Clark brothers. And then in the around 1915. There was a real scandal, as the company secretary had taken the earnings for that particular month and gambled them at one of the local pool halls, or billiard halls as it would have been back then. I don't know where that pool hall is in Wolverhampton, but yeah, that actually forced the company into liquidation, believe it or not. So the sort of the precursor for the Wearwell Cycle Company that we have today actually went out of business, and during its sort of liquidation was purchased by my great-great-grandfather and his cousin, who were sort of businessmen in the city at the time and involved in a metalwork business. So they obviously saw the potential in another business that used metalworks and that type of thing, and they purchased the company and then ran it for almost 50 years.
And let's say in the 70s things moved on, and the bike manufacturing side of the business was bought, and that unfortunately meant the brand disappeared for a while. Obviously it's back today. We can see it resplendent on the outfit that you're wearing now. But I mean, when is this bike from that you have here?
Yeah, so this particular model I believe is from about the 1950s, which would have been when we were enjoying our success on the road with the racing team as well. Unfortunately not all the parts are originals. I've had to bring it back up to scratch with a few modern additions, but yeah, the frame itself is from the 50s. The colour scheme is original, so unfortunately it's sort of a little bit rusted and a little bit bashed, but that is as a consequence of it being an original frame.
But
so.
it's survived well, and when you look back at the catalogues that you have from this time, you can see all the spare parts that could be purchased, and you can see how this was very much about a great bit of British engineering coming out of the city of Wolverhampton, and in various sites over the decades as well. And it is great to see an example of that here now. But Wearwell, as you say, is back, and this is something that's been happening for the last couple of years now, and you're actually working with cyclists to get the right kind of cycling wear for them on whatever bike they ride.
Exactly. So the Wearwell back in the day, as you mentioned, was a bike manufacturing company. When we were looking over the sort of the cycle industry and working out where would be a good fit for us to resurrect the brand, we actually decided that cycle clothing and accessories were potentially a more viable route for us. So that's been our focus. Both myself and my co-founder are very keen cyclists, and I'm sure people are familiar with seeing people out on the roads on the weekend dressed in lycra, which may or may not be the kind of the ideal material to see certain people wearing. But our focus is very much on producing the very best quality cycle clothing that we can. It's very much focused on performance cycling as opposed to just sort of leisure wear, but we are hoping to branch into the leisure wear side as well.
But that does mean that you are taking it seriously. If you are wearing the cycling bib shorts and an appropriate cycling top as well,
yes.
Not only have you got somewhere to put your water bottle, which is vitally important, but
exactly.
equally you know that when you're seen out and about, you're going to be taken a bit more seriously by road users as much as anything else. I think that really can make a difference from a safety aspect as well as everything else.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're well aware that people want to look good for it to perform in the manner that it's supposed to, and I think there's obviously a lot of safety factors that need to be taken into account with cycle clothing these days.
Even down to the reflective paint on the shirt you're wearing now.
Just about to mention, so this jumper, although it may look like any ordinary jumper, we've actually designed it specifically with the idea of being worn when out on the bike. So the lettering that's across the front is actually with reflective tape. There's other details such as reflective items on the sleeve and on the back as well, and we've integrated a large pocket as well because when you're out and about on the bike, it's quite handy to be able to stick whether it's tools or spare parts
or your mobile phone,
bit of food, that kind of thing.
Even if you're at clubbing, it sounds like a fantastic deal to me as well. It sounds like it really will work. So Wearwell is out there as a brand now. I know you're going to be working with some ambassadors throughout 2018, so you'll be able to see their antics out on the road and in other competitions too. So that's one to follow on the website, but also all over social media too, and you can see the brands and the wear there. So where can people go to find out more?
We've tried to cover all bases. So our website's www.wearwell.cc. So that's our main page. That's where you can purchase any of our cycle clothing and accessories from. But naturally, we're all over Facebook, Instagram. I think we've probably a few other places like LinkedIn as well. So kind of wherever you find yourself social media wise, there should be some form of Wearwell representation there if you want to give us a follow.
So take a look at it. Wearwell.cc is that web address. You can see some of the history on there, more pictures of the bikes, and some more of the great stuff that happened in and around the city of Wolverhampton that went global. And you're doing exactly the same thing now with the clothing. Alex, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.